Dear participants of the conference, allow me to present to you today the research that was based on Google Cloud Services as monitoring tools and prevention of inclusion in the rear labor market. This work has been completed by Ivan Demedov, Uliana, Nataliia, Andriy, and me, in part because I'm presenting this job, Andriy. Let us begin. So, we will be talking today about introduction. I'll explain what we have in the presentation for you, related works, methodology and setup, the dataset, results, and discussions. Let us continue to the introduction. Introduction. Well, the purpose of the work is to get acquainted with cloud-based information retrieval technologies used in applied research under conditions of uncertainty. The main task is to outline the state and argue for the prospects of using Google Cloud Services, in particular Google Forms, as a tool for monitoring and preventing inclusion in the real labor market, as well as considerations for improving the use of these services. Cloud technologies best meet the modern needs of solving urgent socioeconomic problems of Ukrainian society, including increasing the level of equality of access to socioeconomic services, optimizing the relationship between the processes of scientific research, personnel training, and businesses' needs in the workforce, organization, and development of the labor market environment with all its social security requirements. In the related works, there are main three blocks that we wanted to talk about. The organization of communication with other scientists, specialists in this subject with work planning through Google Calendar, search and systemization of the source base for conducting research through account in Google Academy, and the preparation, presentation, and storage of analytical materials using the free Office package from Google and its functionality. Proof of interest to this topic, you can see below, we inserted the source one. Completed this research was by Anna Yatsishin. Let us continue to the methodology and setup. The methodology of research of inclusion in the labor market involves the use of an interdisciplinary approach. On one hand, it is about the potential of information technologies, in particular about the advantages of Google Cloud services, such as cost effectiveness, free of charge, organizational simplicity, ease of use, and accessibility from any digital device connected to the internet, availability of the necessary functionality, high decision-making speed in the conditions of uncertainty, and etc. On the other hand, methods and approaches in the field of social sciences that help to investigate the phenomenon of inclusion in the dimensions of social economy and politics. It is about the fact that the organization of data collection and systemization should be complemented by their interpretation and theoretical explanation with the help of the conceptual and terminological and methodological apparatus of statistics, sociology, social and qualitative analysis. The latter helps to clarify the asymmetry of the characteristics of demand and supply in the real labor market under the influence of the phenomenon of inclusion, to suggest ways of present the growth of social tension in society. In both cases, the applied methodology requires improvement. So, in the area of information technology, Google Forms cloud services make it possible to observe the principle of anonymity of the respondent, but there is no certainty that no more than one form is filled out from one account. And the use of Google Forms is also associated with the problems of guaranteeing data security, a limited functional platform, limited integration with other platforms and services, inefficient response management, and even the banal lack of access to an internet connection. Of course, there are also new prospects for the use of Google Forms cloud services for monitoring and prevention of inclusion in the labor market, from the processing of untrusted data to the involvement of artificial intelligence for the development of personal inclusion programs and etc. In order to achieve the set goals, a voluntary and anonymous survey of the population of the specified region was prepared and conducted. In order to determine the main risks of social vulnerability, their characteristics and rating were taken. The survey was conducted using Google Forms in April 2023. The survey is a reliable source of diagnosis of the real needs, dangers, and opportunities of the population that at the time of the survey lived in the Lviv, Ivano-Frankivsk, Transcarpathian, and Chernivtsi regions. According to the monitoring program, 154 questionnaires filled out by adult members of households with different sizes were selected. In total, 586 people were covered by the examination program. Data set. What do we have here? The persons who did not live in the specified region at the time of the survey were not included in the survey. A feature of the survey with the help of the distribution of specific Google Forms was the mass coverage of the active part of internet users. The algorithm of the statistical analysis of the resulting values of indicators of the level of satisfaction of socioeconomic needs of the population of the Carpathian region of Ukraine is given in Table 1. You can see it on the slide here. Here you have two more tables, Table 1 and 2. One is self-assessment of most important losses caused by war, and Table 2, the average assessment of satisfaction of the basic needs of the population for the Carpathian region in the first quarter of 23. And also we have a scale here, the scale of levels of the satisfaction with the needs of the population suggested by the authors. Let us continue to the results. The results of the research were that the population of the Carpathian region is provided with food products and 77% rate satisfaction with the sufficiency of food products in their families from 6 to 10 points. That is above the average level. Less than 3% of those surveyed had a critically low level of food satisfaction, including households with a low level of income per family member and IDP households. The population satisfaction with the need for housing as a place of residence has the highest indicators, so 84% of respondents rated as 6 or more points. According to the survey's results of this survey, 7% of those covered by the survey were socially vulnerable in terms of housing and communal living conditions. Results were given here in table number 3. Here we have a different type of results. According to the results of the survey, 18% of people need help in obtaining qualified medical care, 12% in the availability of medicines. Among those surveyed, 11% of the population in the first quarter had average per capita incomes below the poverty line. More than a third, 37%, received an average monthly income of 2,500 yuan up to 5,000 yuan per person. The probability of the emergence of risks of social vulnerability of the population of the Carpathian region in the first quarter of 2023, according to vulnerability factors, is given to you on the screen here in a graph. More than half, around almost 60%, 58% of the respondents recognize the loss of income and profit as one of the most important material losses associated with the large-scale war. Among them, 31% also lost their job as their main source of income. The highest probability of being socially vulnerable according to the indicator of the amount of income and profit is in those households whose monthly income per person is less than 2,500 yuan. Yes, the 40% of them are socially vulnerable. 39% are IDPs, internally displaced persons, closely related to the lack of workplaces of work for IDPs. Every third of those households with 3 able-bodied unemployed or 3 pensioners unable to work, 22% of the respondents from among those whose households have 1 child. More than a quarter of respondents needed help. 7% of respondents received psychological help, and another 20% needed such help but did not receive it for one reason or another. Lack of opportunities, lack of information, low level of availability of psychological services. Over here, we have the risk of social vulnerability of the population of the Carpathian region in the first quarter of 2023. You have On the left, most common, and on the right, the least common risks. The most and least widespread risks: social vulnerability of the population in the Carpathian region. These are the problems that they had to face. A discussion. The presence of children in the household affects expenditure and average income per capita, but is not a determinant for the emergence of risks of social vulnerability. On the contrary, there is a significant decrease in the probability of the risks of social vulnerability in households without children. This suggests that in households with one or two children, the risk of vulnerability is correlated with the level of income and financial support of the household. Here you can again see the factors of social vulnerability of the population of the Carpathian region in 2023. Thank you for your attention. For the end, I wanted to say that the topic of social vulnerability of the population, inclusion in the labor market in the conditions of war, has become extremely relevant in Ukraine and Ukrainian society. In the conditions that have developed, the question arises from determining the real state of problems, the possibilities of prevention and their overcoming. Rights and responsibilities rest on the state, business, and the population itself. In the conditions of the relatively remote Carpathian region of Ukraine, where both local residents and a large number of forcibly displaced people live, solving the problems requires special research. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.